it tonight. Throughout the evening, you'll have some opportunities to ask questions. We'll have specific times for that. We ask that you stay muted until either we call on you or we go with that, because with this many people, and everyone's unmuted, you get all sorts of background noise. If you want to ask questions, there's the chat feature. Alexandra Shaw is monitoring the chat. You can either send a personal message to her, or you can share it with everyone, and we'll respond the best we can. And then while we're viewing here, if we do recommend using the side-by-side mode. If you scroll all the way up to the top of your screen, there should be a menu called View Options, and it should be side-by-side. That way it kind of won't interfere with the screen. You'll be able to see me talking or whoever's talking. You'll be able to see the slideshow as well. All right. Okay, so I sent out earlier last week, I think, an application packet and some general facts about Project Search. We just wanted to kind of have that to you so you could kind of go through it as we go through it tonight. You certainly don't have to apply right now or even fill it out tonight. It's just so you can kind of have a visual aid as we go through it. If you don't have that one, just go ahead and message the chat, and we can email it out to you. For those of you that were originally signed up for the January 26th, I might have sent it out back then, and so you should have it somewhere in your email somewhere. But if you can't find it and you'd like to follow along, just let us know. All right, so I'm going to introduce some people. I'm Chris Donner. I'm the lead instructor for the Embassy Suites Project Search. You'll be seeing Forrest a little later. He's the lead instructor at the Johnson County Government Project Search. There he is. He's just turned his camera on.
Yeah, I have it off to reduce latency, but I'm here. Yeah.
Usually we do this in person and we can just kind of point at people, but magic of Zoom, we have to kind of make a slide for it. So we have some other people here. Next slide there for us. Bernadette and Alex, they're skills trainers at the Embassy Suites. They're both on the screen tonight. Bernadette is there somewhere, and Alex is there as well. The next one. And then Tina Howard and Susie Carey. They're the skills trainers at the administration building. And Susie's also kind of a different case because she comes from the Olathe School District. So we're lucky to have her. She's part of the skills training. She's been here since the first year. And our supervisor, the team leader for all of employment is here, Amy Fair. She's on the camera as well. We don't have a slide for her, but she's here. So. All right, so now you know all of this. We're going to watch a little quick video here. It is a little choppy. We tried to kind of work it out in rehearsal, but I don't think Zoom likes us playing videos over their platform because it just gets real choppy. So if you want to write, or it should be the URL is in the chat. You can check on that later if you want. You can copy and paste that somewhere. You can keep it later, or I can send it out in an email, but we'll go ahead and just watch it. This is kind of an introduction to Project Search. It's a national program. They'll kind of get into the basics of what Project Search is. And so we'll get it started whenever we can.
Yeah, I'm getting there. The slide wasn't liking me, so I'm switching to the web browser.
My hours are 7:30 to 4:15 every day.
Inside one of Cincinnati's top banks, you'll find new employee Edie Ballman crunching numbers. However, Edie's journey to getting hired at Fifth Third Bank's central file room is different than most. She has a disability, autism, but that didn't stop her from pursuing her goal of getting a full-time job after high school.
I've been using good organizational skills, being part of a team, and giving good eye contact.
Edie joins a growing list of graduates from a program that started at Cincinnati Children's called Project Search, the brainchild of Aaron Riley.
I was the nursing director of the emergency department here at Cincinnati Children's, and I happened to look out in the lobby and was struck by the fact that many of the people coming to us as patients were people with disabilities. And yet, when I checked behind the scenes, there weren't many opportunities for these young people to grow up and continue to be involved in children's as employees.
Aaron partnered with Susie Wachowski at Cincinnati Children's, and together they came up with the Project Search curriculum. It focuses on young people with disabilities between the ages of 18 to 22. In their final year of high school, those students leave the classroom and move to Cincinnati Children's or another host business to intern for the entire school year.
Many of the young people have had low expectations for them from family members, from schools, and we have to change that in a very short period of time. And so we're looking at things like grooming and hygiene, communication, problem-solving skills, independence in time management.
Project Search is an intensive 9-month course for a group of 10 to 12 students that involves a combination of classes, skill assessments, skills training, and evaluations from a team including the instructor, managers, and skills trainers. Each day begins and ends with an instructor keeping them on track.
We would do a lot of reflection in Project Search every day. At the end of the day, we come back and I'll ask them, what did you learn about yourself today? What can you take from today and improve tomorrow? Because I feel like that's so important.
Today, Project Search is beyond the walls of Cincinnati Children's and has expanded to more than 500 programs across the U.S. and the world.
Our overall employment rate among all of our programs is 75.5%. And that makes us one of the best, if not the best, transition program in the United States.
We understood that individuals with disabilities through Project Search is an untapped market. It was an untapped recruitment stream that we could have access to, bring them in, train them on the types of jobs that we have, give them the skills needed so that they can transition into permanent employment. And we've seen great success with that here at Fifth Third, but we've also seen great success with employment in the communities as well.
Also expanding the variety of jobs, Project Search graduates now work in a range of industry sectors. Cengage, an educational services and publishing company, recently joined the growing list to offer not just training and marketable skills, but opportunities for career growth that includes benefits, incentives, and retirement options.
I'd love to run all my employees through those classes. I would, about budgeting and about money and how to handle difficult situations. That life piece, combined with being in a real life work environment, is what makes Project Search completely different than anything else that I've ever seen. And that's why those folks are able to make that transformation and be successful.
A key part of the success is definitely that both sides see and learn something new about the other.
Changing the culture of families and the general perception of people with disabilities is what Project Search is all about. Just ask Edie.
My favorite thing about coming to work every day is getting all the work done and being on task.
To change the culture of businesses and organizations, to change the culture of just the general public about the perception of people with disabilities and what they can and can't do.
I'm awfully proud that because of this hospital and Project Search, there are thousands of people with disabilities working around the United States and the world that wouldn't have been otherwise had it not been for this program.
All right, we'll get back to the slideshow here. So that video is just kind of an overview of what the program is. Like I said in the video, it is a 9-month education, skills training, employment program with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. You might have noticed in there that they said that there was an age limit, 18 to 22, I believe. However, Johnson County Project Search is what we call an adult model, so there is no upper level. You still have to be 18 and out of high school, but there is no upper maximum age. So anyone can participate that has a willingness to learn and to find a job. And you know, it's like I said, it's designed to provide high integration and independence. We get that through the use of host businesses, which we'll kind of get into a little bit later. A lot of integration. And the goal of after the 9 months is to have competitive employment somewhere in the Johnson County area. We are a Johnson County program, and so it does have to be in Johnson County. And that is defined as 16 hours at least per week in a seasonal integrated work environment, making, the prevailing wage, meaning you're not just making minimum wage while everyone around you is making, a regular wage or the wage of of that particular position. So that's what we're looking for. Integrated meaning it's not like a sheltered workshop. It's kind of those things. And so, like I said, we're part of Johnson County Developmental Support. It's an agency of Johnson County, and we program with Project Search. It's a national program. I think we started, this is our 7th year, 6th or 7th year, something like that. And we've had lots of great outcomes throughout those years. All of us work for Johnson County Developmental Supports, the agency of Johnson County. Next one there. And so, and like I said, the business led is Project Search is business led. We have host businesses. All of our activities start at a host business, and we really follow along with what they want us to do. They're expected to follow the policies of not only Johnson County, but also of the host business. We have 2 host businesses, the Johnson County Administration Building and the Embassy Suites in Olathe, which we'll kind of get into a little bit. Just like this. I guess we started in 2014, so in Johnson County government, and then we moved on to opened up in 2016 for the Embassy Suites and Hotel. Since then, we've had classes in each one. Lots of interns coming through and being successful. Next one there. And so in the video, you notice that they said there's an overall percentage of employment at about 70%, whereas if you look at our numbers here, the first year we had 100% placement award, meaning everyone that came through the program, 100% of them that graduated found jobs afterwards. Again, with the second year, 70 to 79, so a lot, still pretty high there. Then we added the Embassy Suites. We both got 100% that first year. And then again, the 80s, 100% for 2017, 18, 19, the 70s and 80s. And I believe last year was probably close to, I'm going to say 70 or 80 as well. And I don't know how familiar you are with other employment programs, but usually the percentage of employment after they get through the program is somewhere in the 30%. So Project Search really does have a pretty high success rate when it comes to finding jobs and getting people placed in positions that they can really build on their careers and stuff. So, and so, like I said, we start out at the host business, where it's a classroom environment. Monday through Thursday, they come to our host business at about 8:30. The bus will pick them up from their house, get them to their host business. We'll have about an hour of instruction time in the morning. We kind of go over what to expect as far as hard skills, soft skills, those kind of things, to make sure that people understand what a job is, what the expectations are of the internship program. And then they have their internship. It's usually on site at the host business. So like at the hotel, you'd be doing a lot of hospitality things, whereas the admin building would be a little more clerical, maybe some office type things. But there's lots of different internships that you can experience. Just because you're at the admin building doesn't mean you'll have all clerical things like that. Then we have a lunch break for them, and then they end their day back at the internship until about 3:15, and that's Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, we have instructional time all day, and that's kind of where we maybe have little extended lessons on things that we're struggling with, or some things that we need to cover, and just kind of go over and go like that. And it turns out to be about 20 hours in internships and about 10 hours of instructional time. I guess just a reminder, if you have questions or something, or anything issues, we can go ahead and you can check with the chat box. Amy is doing she's going through and trying to figure out attendance. So if she sends you a text or something, or a chat in the chat box, just get with her, because we like just to know who shows up that has RSVP'd and who we didn't reach, and just things like that. So if you get any sort of information, please feel free to respond to her. And so throughout the year, we have three rotations at the internship sites. They're each about 10 weeks long, where they model closely a position that a business would hire for. So we want to have a job that's not too carved out, and so it would be able to go from learning these skills at the host business where they could transfer them to any other job they have. Like you could, wash dishes in a kitchen at a hotel. You could also take those skills and transfer them to washing dishes in a restaurant. And basically the idea behind that is learning marketable job skills. If you're going and doing a job that no one really gets paid for or isn't really a job, it's not really going to be marketable. When you finish the program, you won't have the skills that you need to find a good, successful job. And they are unpaid internships. However, we'll talk about a little bit that later. Some of our partners might be able to provide some funds for at least one of the 3 rotations to be paid. That way we can kind of go over how to budget things, learn how to read a paycheck, those kind of things. So just a little more hands-on experience that way. So go ahead, next one. And so here's the calendar. It models closely to a school year calendar. We did that just because we have school partners, we have to have an educational partner. It just kind of works out that better that way as far as a program year. It kind of makes sense to people that follow roughly the school year calendar. As you'll see, the different colors represent the different internship rotations. Like we start off with the green one in August there. That's kind of the orientation where we kind of let everyone know what to expect. They learn their different business skills or the business requirements. They learn just how to get around the host business. And then we jump into the rotation where, like I said, they're about 10 to 11 weeks each. You'll notice there's some red dates, and we do follow the county days for holidays and certain things like that. And then the yellow weeks are we have transition weeks where we reset between each of the rotations. We'll go ahead and maybe apply for your next rotation, do some interviewing, any sort of trainings that we need to have, that we need to have a couple days in a row that we need to get to. We use those for the transition classes. But just to kind of give you an idea of what you're signing up for, it is a 9-month program. It goes from August to May, and we do expect participation for that entire time. Next one. And so with COVID this year, things have been a lot different. You probably all had some sort of experience with things that have changed because of COVID. We do have requirements that both the host business and Johnson County, as in Johnson County employees, we have to follow Johnson County Health Department. We are required to wear masks when we're in our work sites, maintain physical distancing. We do spend a lot of time during the orientation week going over sanitation, hand washing, those kind of things. And just being aware of your own illnesses, right? So like if you're not feeling well, making sure that you're able to communicate with us so you're not coming in and potentially passing along COVID. We do anticipate that some of these things will still be in place, if not all of them by the time we start in August. So we're just kind of putting that out there. This has been affected by COVID because usually we would have you all in one big room. We'd all be talking to everyone. We'd have hands-on stuff, but that's not possible right now. So again, the goal is just to keep everyone safe, and everything is going to just kind of play it by ear. Things will change as we get new information. So just kind of be flexible with that kind of thing. So, all right, next one. All right, so this is where I'm going to open it up to questions. If anyone has questions, I'll kind of keep an eye on. I ask that you just kind of unmute. We'll go from there.
And we do have more slides after this. This is trying to break it up a little bit.
This isn't the whole presentation. We're just trying to give you some time to, if you have questions, allow you to ask them so we don't. At the end of it, you'll have all these questions about things we talked about 20 minutes ago.
I see. I think it's Ian, if I want to pronounce that right, raising his hand for a question. You can go ahead and unmute if you want to ask your question.
Okay.
Give you a sec.
Okay, here we go. So you said that the precautions are going to stay in place, of course. So when we are doing the classroom sessions for when we're doing the internship training, will we be meeting in a physical location, or will we be doing this online?
Yes, that's a good question. We will have, we're able to have a large enough space where we could keep enough social distancing between each person, so we could have it in the physical classroom.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
There are times where, due to precautions, we may ask people to remote learn for a day or something like that, because we try to keep people engaged as much as we can. Find that balance between being engagement, but also being safe and following precautions. So we found success in having people remote learn when they need to. But yeah, generally it's in person.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions?
And again, if you want to put them in the chat box, or if you want to ask them later, feel free. But we're here to ask any questions you may have. So if not, maybe we'll just move on to the next section.
Okay.
And go
I
from
think
there.
that's me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to take things over here for a bit, guys. Just a reminder, my name is Forrest Austin. I'm with the Johnson County Government Project Search Program, and I'm the lead instructor there. So usually what we do in these presentations is we're able to have the current year's class do a quick presentation on themselves and their experiences so far. Due to circumstances, could do it the same way this year. Doing the virtual Inferno nights wasn't as plausible. So what I've done instead is I have used some people's slides. I'm going to give you guys some examples of people in the program, and then also have some slides from a couple different years programs to give you ideas of some of the internships that people have done, to kind of help maybe put that into a better picture for everybody. So this is a presentation done by one of this year's interns from this year's program year. Like Chris said, everybody is at least 18 years or older. And so high school graduates or older, some people have college experience. There are some situations where some people might be in our program during their last year of high school, which we'll talk about a bit more later, but generally that's who's with us. This person did an internship at Cintas. So this is an example of an offsite rotation. Like Chris mentioned before, we have our two host businesses, Johnson County Government, where I'm from, and Tina's from over there, and we're that project search program. And then Chris and Alex, I believe, is here, and I think Bernadette was here. They're from the Embassy Suites class, and so primarily interns, especially in the first and second rotation, would typically do rotations in those places. However, we have outside business partners that people might do internships at later on in the year, typically third rotation. This year is a little different due to COVID-19. We've had to be more flexible with what internships we do, where and when, because all the options that are typically available are. And I'll kind of touch base on some examples of that. But so we had someone do this first rotation. And they're just like an employee there. They're doing some of the work they do on their floor there. So that's a place where they do laundry for, they're a big company that does laundry for other companies, right? And so we help with rolling up the mats and sacking things and folding things, just alongside their other employees, basically, just to get like a realistic job experience. It's a pretty cool place, actually. A lot going on there. And then this person was also doing an internship at the Embassy Suites, like I mentioned. So that's one of our host businesses. So this person's doing some custodial work there. So they're going to clean restrooms, vacuum, wash windows. They're doing a lot more sanitizing this year than normal too, as you can imagine, because of the heightened precautions. So that's definitely been in demand. Here's an example of another person from this year. Also a high school graduate. When we, a common question we get asked is like, what kind of people typically apply with us? And so a lot of people who come to Project Search a large chunk of those are often people who recently graduated high school who are trying to find a transition program into employment to help them be successful in transitioning to employment. Some people are older though. I kind of compare it to like what you see maybe in a college room where, yeah, a lot of people might be younger, but then you have people who are coming back to get their degrees. So this is a person who's someone who graduated a few years ago and was looking for a program to assist them in getting a job. So they did the first rotation at Price Chopper. You'll see the sanitizing thing there again, but they did some other stuff too. Sweeping, facing shelves, sacking groceries, cleaning, right? Again, job duties that someone there would typically do. And then we have them at the Embassy Suites also doing the laundry department. So folding, drying, using the drying press, and they're helping with some sanitation duties as well. Those are from this year. Here's some examples from previous years. This is someone who did an internship at our Human Resources Department at Johnson County Government. So they did some skills that you typically see in an office environment. They assist with data entry and scanning documents. We get a lot of internships wanting us to help with scanning, transitioning documents from electronic format, which can be a useful skill to learn. And then this next one, this is someone who's at Johnson County Planning and Codes. I don't know if you guys have ever built a house or structure and you needed to go to a planning and codes department to get inspections done and things like that. That's what these guys do. Make sure you're building things to code, as they say, right? So we help them with some of their clerical duties as well. So they'll have like those big blueprints or those big rollout plans that will help like scan, and their plot scanner, which is pretty neat, and get some of their filing and inspection papers organized. So yes, when their inspectors go around to do inspections on properties, they bring the documentation back and needs to get put in the right folders and stuff. So we've helped with that before too. Now, these are both examples of internships that aren't as available right now. A lot of offices have a lot of their employees working remotely. And so Johnson County Government, where I am assigned, we typically do a lot of office experiences, but haven't had that as much during the pandemic. It's hard to foresee exactly how that will affect next year's program yet. I'm cautiously optimistic, hoping that things will improve by then and we'll be back in more of those places, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. And then this is someone who did facilities department at the Johnson County Administration Building, because we don't have just office rotations. So they did custodial duties there as well. Assisting, it's kind of a good experience because they get interns get some chances to work independently and to do part of the day themselves, and they do another part of the day with a coworker, and so you kind of get a chance to do both. Okay, and then this is another outside business that we do internships at times, this year included. They've still been providing internships to interns. So it's with a part of Olathe Health called Sodexo. So we help them with, it's their food service department. We've had people do dishwashing skills with them. We've had people do tray preparation and tray delivery to patients with them. And we've had people do dining attendant work with them. So a couple of good experiences there. People tend to enjoy that experience with them. They've hired a few people, which is pretty cool. And so there's some examples of internships. I guess kind of in a nutshell. So we have our Embassy Suites. That's pretty hospitality focused, helping in things in a hotel environment. Then we have Johnson County Government. Typically we have a lot of clerical positions, but some non-clerical ones as well, like custodial and food services. And then we have outside business partners that we do internships with also. Showed you guys a couple examples of those. That's kind of those in a nutshell. Okay, so this is the point where we're going to start looking at the application itself and kind of going over some pages with that to help explain a few things, clarify some things, make sure everyone's on the same page about what to do with it. If you have that available electronically, as Chris mentioned earlier, he sent that in an email. It's good to have that in front of you and kind of go along with us as we go through it. There'll be some things I point out and some page numbers I ask you to look at. Don't have to, not required. I'm not there to check if you're doing it or not, but it could help, right? So first thing I like to point out is on the actual application, there's two kinds of page labels. Some of them are labeled red, they say keep. Some of them are labeled green, they say return. So if you end up mailing the application to us, we just have those on there to make sure we get back the pages that say return on them. The ones that say keep, you can keep yourself for reference. It's up to you. If we get them back, if you send those with your other stuff, we're not gonna be upset about it, but it's nice to have a copy of some of the beginning information in there that explains like the requirements of the program and expectations. Okay, I want to go over some of the requirements for participation. And gosh, you know, my Zoom window is actually blocking what it says here. I don't get to do the side-by-side view like you guys do. Page 2, I should know that. On page 2, it goes over some of those requirements in a list. I kind of take it and reorganize it in the slides to kind of break it down by category, basically. So these first ones are like the logistical boxes we got to check. First, you do have to be 18 years or older to participate. We are an adult model program, typically graduated from high school, although there are some exceptions to that. I'll touch base on that in a few points. You do have to live in Johnson County. So Chris and I and Amy and Tina and Bernadette and Alex, we all work for Johnson County Developmental Supports. It's a Johnson County department of Johnson County government. And we provide services to people with intellectual developmental disabilities in Johnson County, right? So you do have to be a Johnson County resident to participate in our Project Search program. If you are in here and you're like, oh shoot, I don't live in Johnson County, whoops, that's okay. You might consider emailing us and then we can connect you with the Project Search statewide coordinator, and they may be able to identify a Project Search program in your area that you might be able to use. So happy to look into that for if you want. But yeah, so for us, you do have to be in Johnson County resident. You need to be able to pass a drug screen and background check. Pretty common requirements for an employer. So if you're unable to do that, that affects your efficacy of getting a job at all. So you do need to be able to do that, right? We can't help you get a job if you aren't passing drug screens and background checks. Must be in your last year of eligibility at least for special education services or fully exited from school. So if you're a high school graduate already, you can just take this point, put it aside, don't worry about it. You're graduated from high school, great. If you're in your senior year, it is possible to use this as a transition program for your last year of school eligibility. Typically, we've done that through the Olathe School District is the one that has offered that in the past. And that's something we coordinate with them. So if you're in your senior year and you're planning on making that your last year, for example, if you're like in 18 to 21 and you're planning on exiting, it's just that it has to be your last year. You have to exit after you complete the program. So if there's other things you want to do in school before you graduate, then you'll want to wait till your last year to apply with us. Okay, and then access to a funding source. So a couple things to explain here. So it mentions here home and community-based services, HCBS funding. I'm actually going to go ahead and jump to this next slide for a second because it helps me explain a little bit. Kind of break this down. So a few acronyms for you guys. So here's some information about the CDDO. That stands for Community Developmental Disabilities Organization. Okay. So they're the organization in our county that determines whether or not you're eligible for IDD services, okay? And you do have to be eligible through them to be part of Project Search. So that's a requirement for everybody. It may be something you've already done. And in fact, you can actually apply with them as early as age 5. If you're not sure if it's something you've done or not, then what you're gonna wanna do is call them and check. And there's a number for them in the application packet on the flow chart for Gail Laurie. There's someone you can contact to check if you're if you've already done your eligibility for them. If you haven't, that's okay. What you want to do is get that process started. And while you're completing that process, you can still apply with us. However, you do need to have that process completed with them before you can participate. We start in the mid-August. I want to say August 16th. Is that correct, Chris? Yes, thank you. So you'd have to be determined eligible by that date. Then after you're eligible with them, what they'll do is another assessment with you, okay, to determine whether you're eligible for HCBS funding. So that stands for Home and Community-Based Services. So it's a different process. So once you're eligible with the CDDO, they'll say, great, now let's try this. There's a couple possibilities here. You might try to get that funding source and then you determine you're not eligible. You can appeal that, but you have to do it within a pretty limited time frame. So if there's something that you got denied a while ago, I mean, it's good to check, but you have to appeal that within a certain time frame. If you are eligible, then what they'll do is they'll put you on the waiting list, okay, for HCBS funding. So some people here might be on the waiting list. So that waiting list, unfortunately, is a pretty long wait. If you're just getting on it, it can be, I think, up to 9 years. I think it's the estimated wait time. However, like I said, if someone had applied a while ago, then, like, for example, when they're younger, then you may be further up on the wait list or have already gotten it. You might already have HCBS funding. If you already have it, great. You can use that as your funding source. Okay. For those who aren't, but we have to look at other options. Okay. We do have access to a source of state funding, it looks like, which may be able to assist some people who do not have HCBS funding. It's something we're still learning about. Exactly what the application process is going to look like. So if you don't have HCBS funding, but you're still interested in trying to get in, you can still apply, and then that's something that we'll look at later on in the enrollment process. Okay. Wait, yeah, I think I touched base on everything there. See, I have an advantage over Chris because I can control my own slides. He has to count on me. Some other requirements. So these are some more soft, what we call soft skill related requirements. So soft skill is something that is behavioral, right? So the first thing here it says is have independent daily living skills, right? Including be able to self-medicate if needed. So we don't pass medications at Project Search. And that's because at a job, they're not going to do that either. You know, realistically, you'll have to be able to take care of that or have your medications set in a way to where they're outside your work hours, right? Independent daily living skills. So, I mean, that means that you're reasonably able to get up, get ready, get here, navigate throughout the day. So you'll be able to kind of learn about what your break times are, when you need to be in class, follow a schedule. Okay. Maintain appropriate behavior and social skills in the workplace. Now, something I like to say here is that, you know, here at Project Search, we're a transition to work program, and we understand people are coming to us because they need help with some things. So it's not that we expect you to be perfect. It's just that we also need to come from a place where we can make the reasonable improvements from there to meet the requirements. You need to be at a place where you can meet the expectations of the host business with some training, okay? That's kind of the rule of thumb on that. Take directions from staff and supervisors. I can't see what's left, and change your behavior when needed. So following directions is an important part of work. If you're unwilling to follow directions of your supervisor, that's going to make navigating in the workplace very difficult. So that's something that we want to come in and have already have some pretty decent skills at. Be able to communicate effectively. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be able to speak verbally effectively. It just means you need an effective way to share your thoughts with people. Okay, so that could be writing things down or using a communication device or something like that. But you need to be able to communicate and have interest in getting a job. And we've talked about maybe bolding this and making this bigger before on the slide, but we are a transition to work program. So, Chris is doing the little popper thing there. Yeah, and if you're not interested in working, then we're probably not the right place for you, because we want people who are coming to us to want to use the time in their program effectively and meet that goal of employment and do everything they can to get that. So we want the interest to be there. Okay. After you fill out your application, you'll be asked to attend an assessment process. Okay. We're doing a little different this year, because usually what we do is we have a day set where we have everyone come up, do an assessment day. It's a cool, fun event. But of course, due to precautions, we can't do it exactly that way this year. So instead, we're going to be sending appointments to people as they apply, and kind of negotiating appointments on an individual basis. And how it looks basically is you come in and you'll do some mock workstations with us so we can get an idea of what your work skills are like. It's not a test. Don't expect people to do perfect at everything. We just want to check and see if you have a base level of skill that would make you a good fit for one of our host businesses, and that you seem like you have potential for growth. And we'll also do an interview where we get to know you and kind of your thoughts about why you want to be in the program. Again, it's not something that's supposed to make you nervous, because interviews are just a way to get to know people. We're not trying to make you feel nervous when we interview you. We try to make it fun. And our target dates for assessment are going to be in mid-April. I think it says it later, but our application deadline is going to be at the end of March, and then we'll be setting assessments for mid-April. Okay. Questions so far? That was a big chunk of information. Any questions coming in? Yeah, I see Stacy, I think, talking there.
Yeah. What I was thinking is, what's the training method? I mean, if you're looking to put the skills in places for jobs, what's the training timing and how does that work?
So we're a 9-month program. When we start in August, we do our 3 weeks of orientation to do basic business training and do interviews for internships. After we start internships, we do an hour of classroom time Monday through Thursday. And in that time, we talk about a whole range of things related to employment, hard skills and soft skills alike. So we learn things about hygiene and how to speak to your supervisor or coworkers and how to maintain good attendance, and some of those underappreciated things you need to be successful at work, things that some people take for granted. And then people spend 20 hours a week at their internship also, so they can put those skills to the test, like to put them into practice immediately. And then we do training all day on Fridays also with classroom time. And that's where we get more intensive, have more intensive discussions or work on projects, including like resumes, cover letters, how to do, sort of look for jobs. Each intern does 3 rotations. So they'll try 3 different jobs. Our goal is to match people with internships that will provide a good environment for growth for them and give them job skills that will help them look into jobs that they're interested in or to be a good fit for them. Sometimes people come to Project Search kind of knowing maybe an idea of what kind of work they'd like to do. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes people come like, hey, I want to work, but I'm not sure what I should be doing. And they kind of use this more as a job exploration tool, perhaps. After we complete the 9 months, they'll get assigned an employment specialist. Actually, let me back up because just to make sure I'm answering your question. When we're doing the internship training, so when people are working at their internships, what they'll do is they'll get provided a skills trainer. We introduce some of them at the beginning, and Chris and I do some of the skills training too. We get in there, but and we model it pretty closely to what it'll look like when we're looking for paid jobs at the end of the year. So we'll start with them. So we'll be present as what I like to call a reasonable accommodation for the person, where we help them learn about the job environment, help them with their initial training, make sure they know how to do their job. We're usually there intensively for the first few days, sometimes longer than that if needed for the person. But then we do start to back off. So our goal is to back off so the person can navigate and work independently in their job, and then come in and do additional training where needed. But the goal is total independence, because that's what we'll need at a work environment. So then after we finish our 9 months, they'll have an employment specialist from our department. So they're from the same team as Chris and I, but from a different part of our team, and they do they help people do the job searches. And they do a similar thing. So they'll help people apply in an interview for positions, and then help them get started just like we would. So they'll go in with them, do some intensive training the first few days, and then back off, kind of using their judgment and negotiating with the person in the place they're working. Does that help you answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, that's great, but how successful is that training?
I mean, pretty successful. I think that as long as we're finding good program matches, then we're pretty successful at teaching people to work pretty independently at their jobs. I mean, there's always a degree of support that we want to provide people. So we, while we're doing project search, we're still doing regular check-ins, make sure they're still doing okay, and talking with them and their supervisor to get feedback on how they're doing. Usually, even if someone's doing really well during project search, we usually still do at least weekly check-ins. And that's if they're doing pretty well. Now, after they graduate and they look for paid positions, if they get a paid position and they're working somewhere independently, it's going to be similar at first. They're going to do that initial intensive training, back off. And then once they're stable, we won't be there much at all. And this is something that Alex will talk about a bit later, but we do our job placement process through vocational rehabilitation. And I'm kind of getting the weeds here maybe a little bit, but they'll do, Chris is like, yeah, you kind of are forced. But they'll do what's called 90 days of stabilization. So that basically what that means is that employment specialist sticks around relatively closely for about 90 days and just make sure that they're stable before Voc Rehab closes their case. And then what we typically like to do is then move them to HCBS follow-along supports, where we have someone else from our department, another part of our team, who does follow along with them. And that's kind of more on a monthly basis unless more attention is required. And that's kind of getting way in the future, and that's kind of getting the weeds, but all I'm trying to demonstrate is that there's a degree of follow along past that point too. But at the same time, there's a high degree of independence that's needed from the person to be successfully doing that, if that makes sense.
So there's obviously a lot of support going behind it.
Right. I mean, we want to provide reasonable accommodations for people to be successful at their jobs. So that means that, we're going to go in, help them when they need help, and help them navigate some of those more difficult work situations. Like, for example, if they're working and they have a supervisor change or their job duties change a lot, that's kind of our cue to come in and help. But it also has to be reasonable. Like if it's a situation where someone's working at a place and they need a trainer every day with them most of the time, then they're not realistically able to do that job themselves, and that means it's not a good fit, if that makes sense.
Sure. Well, obviously, I just think that if you give enough support, that's the, I feel like that's the success for their, upcoming job. So if you're looking to give them the support that you need to give them, then they're going to be successful. But that's kind of what I needed to know.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I could answer your question.
I mean, plenty of support throughout the entire process. And then, like we had that slide about the overall outcomes, project search as a whole is roughly 70%. Johnson County project search, I think, is usually right there in the 70% range. Some years we're 100%, some years we're 70%. But yeah, I mean, we have really good outcomes when it comes to placements after the graduation. Amy, we're gonna add something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you getting up there, Amy, to say something, or?
You can tell.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to jump in. Yeah. So our average success rate runs around about 85%. you know, what we really try to do is find that exact right amount of support that somebody needs to be successful without taking away their independence. So as independent as they can be, that's where we want them to be. But, you know, we want to make sure that we're there, you know, providing the supports. We want them to be successful long-term. We want it to be a good match so that they can sustain that success going forward, and you know, even help them navigate changes as they advance in their positions and get more experience. So
Great. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions before we move on? This is a good question.
I have one actually.
Sure.
I know that there is a college program also for the for the special need community.
You might be talking about clear classes. Is that what you're?
I don't remember what it was called.
Okay.
It was I thought it was also a 3-semester program. Am I mixing these things up? Are they the same thing, or is this?
It can get a little confusing. I know.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not sure yet. I have to look at which one is specific. So we are partnered with Johnson County Community College. They certify our program. But they do have their own programs as well. They have clear classes for people. That's more of a general education thing. It's not. It's focused on job training. The one I'm thinking of, at least, maybe you're aware of something else. Not sure,
I wasn't sure if this was actually the program. I mean, this is really a great program, and I'm not saying we're not. Obviously, I'm not saying making a decision right this minute anyway. But
oh, sure, yeah. If you're looking at options, yeah.
I'm just definitely like the information, but I mean, I guess my question actually was, do people do a college program and then move into this, or do they usually just move right?
Sometimes. So some other things that this makes me think of are, oh gosh, and you know, I'm blanking on one of the names, but a few colleges have
like Thrive.
Yeah, like Thrive program have like
in the chat they mentioned something about
programs.
TPE through KU was mentioned in the chat box.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
I heard it was through Johnson County Community College.
Oh, yeah.
The program I had thought was more, and that's okay. I mean, this may be the program they were talking about, and I misunderstood.
Oh, sure.
You know, because there's a lot of information going on.
Oh, I know.
You know.
We throw a lot of things at people. But just to kind of speak to your question generally, because this is a good question, just like how to balance, you know, for secondary education or further education opportunities with Project Search. Typically, it's better, like if you want to do like a program like Thrive or something, if someone want to do that first. Because our goal after Project Search is to move into employment and focus on that. So that we're for when people are ready to be at that point where they want to focus on working.
Okay, I think it was Thrive. That's what you said, right? Thrive?
Yeah, Chris had mentioned that. He remembered that me.
So maybe that was the program that I had been informed about.
I'm not sure if that's the one through Johnson County Community College, or if it's through, what is that? The school down in Missouri somewhere.
I think Thrive is through Central Missouri.
Central Missouri, yeah.
Okay, that wouldn't be the one then. Yeah, no, it would be the one here I thought it was Johnson County and Mid-America Nazarene. But I'm trying to get that information from my son's person at school. I actually emailed them. So sure. I kind of say, what are our options? What's the best?
Yeah, like one of their transition counselors, yeah.
Yeah, transition.
There was a program at one time that me and one of the interns went to talk to them, and it was at Johnson County Community College. And I think that is kind of like what they were saying. It's a transition thing. So you kind of got to figure out where your adult where they're at or where you think they are. Because if you think they need some more training before actually being independent, you might want to try something like that or one of the colleges, because we had a lot of people go through those before they came to Search. Okay. But it just kind of depends on what you and your family decide where they are. But there is a program at Johnson County Community College, but I think they were kind of still in high school in a way going to that, or they had just gotten out of high school and they were doing that training before they got jobs, because we went and talked to them about project search.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that information. Mhm.
Yeah, thanks, Bernadette. And I saw Ian was raising his hand. Do you have a question, Ian?
Yeah. I was wondering, do you guys take an applicant's educational qualifications into consideration? Like I have a bachelor's degree in English,
Awesome.
and qualifications in that area. Do you guys look for internships in those sorts of areas, or is it more general, like clerical, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I guess real quick, Ian, what was the bachelor's degree in?
English.
English. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of the internships we have aren't jobs that would require a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can't think of any internships we have at this time that would need a qualification like that. Usually what we do is help train people for entry level work. Things that you can typically get with just a high school diploma.
Right.
Now that said, I mean, there's some jobs that, we have a bachelor's degree. That's a pretty valuable thing that employers take in consideration, even for those jobs that might be entry level but might be competitive. It could be a factor, but I wouldn't say we have internships that specifically require that, or jobs that we typically see people get that typically require that. And I don't know if anyone else has thoughts, but I think that's okay. Chris thinks I covered it. Good question. And congrats on getting that bachelor's degree, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. So I think this is still me. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Okay, so on page 3 of the application, this is where we have some philosophies I like to touch on. So I was going to touch on those real quick. So the first part was employment first mindset. So that's the idea that employment's a priority, right? We want people coming through a program where they're focused on working. And so we want to take, job opportunities seriously and have, good discussions about them and keep our doors open. Sometimes it can, sometimes we need to navigate around extracurricular activities. We have to ask those questions about where we're going to prioritize in these situations. So that's something we look at. Respecting the employment process. So this is kind of one of those two-way street things where, we want to help people look for jobs that are a good fit for them and are help them towards their goals. However, like for a lot of people, the first job they get isn't their end goal job, right? They usually work their way towards that by getting other jobs. So like for me, for example, I didn't get my first job as project search lead instructor. I did a series of other jobs that led me to this point. That doesn't mean that we don't want to get a first job that isn't a good fit for you at all, or that isn't going to help you with your goals. But, we have to be, when it comes to looking for jobs, it's the same situation for everybody. We're all in the same job market that have to take those same steps. And then that the commitment to employment never ends. So kind of like we mentioned earlier, we want people who go through project search who are committed to working. We want people to go through a program to be investing that time towards that goal. If there's someone going through project search who isn't interested in working or isn't really planning on doing that, that's time that someone else could have used to complete that goal. So that's something we want to keep in mind. And that we also help people continue being dedicated to work after they finish and stay in the workforce, with the support we can provide, of course, but that they stay committed to working. Okay.
Can I actually say something about that?
Yeah, please.
Too?
Sure.
Also with project search, respecting the employment process, one of the things that we sometimes may encounter is that, we may have individuals that have had prior work experience either with another program or they have had work experience in, their own kind of paid job. And sometimes they take that as, oh, I am finding something similar in project search and I will just do that the whole time. And, it's okay if, when they come, they want to, again, try maybe a similar opportunity. But knowing that project search is also a time of exploration. So, just like we're talking about respecting the employment process, after project search, respecting the employment process during project search means kind of challenging yourself to kind of think outside the box of what you think work is. And, investing time with exploring different options and seeing what you do like, what you like about a certain job, what you don't like about a certain job, and then being able to take that information to then advocate, for yourself after project search to say, these are the things that I know for a fact I would love in a job. These are things that maybe I wouldn't like so much, but I can work through it. And then using that with your employment specialist or VR counselor to then successfully move forward with employment, kind of, you being a part of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thought, Alex. I mean, and I think just being willing to try things. I think that's a good thing to think about. We also adhere to the value of adult status. And so that's the idea that people, we're an adult model program and that's what we want to adhere to, that the people in our program are adults and should be treated like adults. We want people to have those appropriate adult boundaries and have that respect because we feel that helps them grow as a person. It helps them be more successful when they're approaching jobs in the community. That they know they're valued and respected, and that that their employer can see that in them. Okay, and then I'm going to move on to the flow chart here. So what page was this on? I know you guys. Oh, whoops. I know you guys can see it, but it keeps getting covered for me. It's page 4. Thank you, Chris. So this is just a quick tool that we have in the application just to help people kind of understand where they're at in the process so nobody gets lost. First off, it just kind of asks about those basic requirements about being age 18 or older, Johnson County resident, and CDDO eligible. Everyone does need to be eligible for services. You don't necessarily have to have HCBS funding, although if you don't, that does mean that we need to find another funding source for you. So there'll be a problem-solving process there.
I have a question real quick. I'll try to keep it short. What if my son is, let's see, I went through CDDO a year ago or so, and he is on the waiting list. So yeah. I don't know exactly what that means, to be honest with you. So
yeah, so what that means is that he's eligible for HCBS funding, but that funding will become available until he's at the top of the waiting list, and that unfortunately takes a pretty decent amount of time. I think right now it's 8 or 9 years.
So what do I need to do then? Because we don't have 8 or 9 years. He'll be,
right.
He'll be 28 years old, and I'll be like, won't be good.
Right. We're still in the process of problem solving additional funding sources. We have identified one that the CDDO can assist us in applying with the state, get state aid for people for project search. Who do not have HCBS funding. However, what's not clear to us yet is how much of that funding is available and how many people can use it. Mm-hmm. So I guess that option would be that you guys would apply, see what we do in the application process, determine if it's a good fit. And then at that point, that's when we're going to discuss the CDO. Like, here's people that we'd like to include but don't have HCBS funding.
So we could go ahead and apply, and you would go ahead and ask for it. That's how that's going
right. Right. That right.
On our end, it's something you're going to do.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Good question. So then it talks about filling out the application and returning to us by the end of March, the 26th. Is that so?
Haven't changed the year yet, so.
Oh, whoops. It's 2021.
Yeah.
My mistake. Yeah, you don't have to go back in time to turn in the application. No. And I believe we're mailing those to Tina this year. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And her information to get that to her is on the application.
Okay.
And then once we get your application, we'll set up an assessment date with you where we'll have you come in, try some mock work in a station to do an interview with us. After that, we review everyone's applications and assessments, and we let people know about their acceptance status in May. Okay. Some required documentation and asked for in the application. Here are the things that we pretty universally ask for. So of course you do need to complete all the components of the application, which includes the main application and the two assessments, the written assessments. I'll talk about those more in a second. We do ask that you include a color photo of some sort because it really assists us in organizing and keeping track of people's applications when we have a quick photo to reference. So please include that if you can. A current state ID or driver's license, and then a copy of the social security card. But copies, by the way. I don't want your original state ID or driver's license. Don't send that to me. I want just a copy's fine. Don't want your social security card. Just send me the copy. Those two assessments, you'll notice in the email, if you look at them both, they look really similar. If you don't look at them closely, you might even think they're the same document, but they're not. We do ask people to complete both. One is to be completed by the applicant themselves, so the person who's planning on participating in the program. And we want them to complete it as independently as they can. That doesn't mean they can't get help. But the main idea is that we want it to be as much of that from their perspective as possible. That's the point of doing it. And then we want the other one to be completed by someone who knows the person well. You both might have different opinions about exactly what skills are there or what you might need help with, and that's okay. We like to have both perspectives. Okay. So please complete those both. Here's some of the things that we might need depending on your situation. So this first one is an IEP. We only require this if you're under 22 years of age. So 18, 19, 20, 21. We'll still take it if you're older than that and you have it available, but it's most useful when it's more current, when you recently graduated or recently used it. It's helpful for us because then we can see what kind of things the school maybe have tried with you and what kind of barriers they identified with you, and that helps us in that process with you also. Then if you do have home and community-based services already, then you probably have a person-centered support plan. Sometimes it's abbreviated as a PCP or PCSP. Basically what that is it's just a document that's about you and how to best support you. And that's something that helps us also in the application. Then if you have any information about formal training programs that you've tried before, I think some of these we might have talked about briefly earlier, but Thrive, if you did Project Rise or did an Access program, things about what you tried, how you did, that's helpful for us. Or if you've had any career assessments done. Those can be useful things for us to look at. Okay. Other questions so far? I think we're getting close to the point where we're switching to Alex here. Oh, yep. I'm going too fast. Yeah, so Alex, I think this is your cue if you want to jump in.
My time to shine. Kidding. Okay, awesome. So what we're going to talk about now is our partnerships that we have that basically help Project Search run. So earlier, Forrest and Chris kind of talked about the internship partnerships that we have. So that would be our host businesses, Embassy Suites, and then Johnson County Admin. And then we have other partnerships that allow us to then have other internships. So, Olathe Medical Center, and then some other ones depending on when they're available. Now, these partnerships are more of the logistical part of Project Search, so they help us kind of run. and make sure we have what we need. So the first one would be Ride KC Freedom. We have a partnership with Ride KC that allows us to utilize their transportation services that will then pick up an intern from their house and bring them to our host business sites. With areas that are outliers to the Johnson County area, we can talk about or discuss other options for them to still attend Project Search. For interns that would like to drive independently, we would basically work with one of our other partnerships, which I'll get into later, that can help them potentially be reimbursed for the gas that they utilized. And then of course, just like I talked about a little bit earlier, is utilizing private providers to be able to support interns getting to Project Search in those outlier areas of Johnson County. Workforce Partnership does the funding for the transportation for Project Search interns during the year. So they are a really big funding source for our program. They also help us kind of be able to purchase certain things that interns may need. So for example, interns that are at the Embassy Suites Project Search, or that may go and attend other internships in different areas, may need non-slip shoes. Workforce Partnership helps us pay for those. Additionally, if we ever have an internship that's paid, so just to kind of reintroduce, Project Search is an unpaid internship opportunity, but with Workforce Partnership and our partnership through them, they may have available funds to fund a internship, so then interns are paid for that internship opportunity. And then at the same time, interns, even after they exit Project Search, can still tap into Workforce Partnership and receive other benefits through their services. And though like the school district, so earlier, whenever Chris was introducing all of us who are on the Project Search team, he talked about Susie Carey, who is a skills trainer from the Olathe School District. They also help us kind of connect with people who are interested in coming to Project Search after they graduate or whenever they're in that last year of, their high school stuff. So, yeah. And then VR, so vocational rehabilitation. We work with the Kansas Department of Children and Families as a provider for VR services. And then interns, once they graduate from Project Search and they work with VR, to be able to then utilize our services after they graduate and have an employment specialist, they will then enroll with VR and have JCDS, so Johnson County Developmental Supports, as a provider. And then Johnson County Community College is also another partner of ours. They accredit our Project Search program. They also help us kind of do other little things. So currently right now we're doing, it's something new for us this year. We are participating in a technology class through JCCC. And this allows us to, be able to focus on those technology skills that are also part of our own Project Search curriculum, which is really awesome. At the same time, JCCC also gives us the opportunity to then, do our graduation. So once interns graduate, we'll have hopefully this year, we'll have our graduation at Johnson County Community College. And then interns will also receive a certificate of completion of the program through JCCC too. And I did get a question about the slides. Will these slides come out in an email? Yes, they can be sent out in an email if that's necessary. Absolutely. Cool. All right. Any questions for me from that?
Yeah, this is a photo from one of our graduations, just as an example. I just threw that in there. Yeah, I think the next slide is questions. Is that right? No. Oh, that's for me though. I guess I'll put my camera back on. Other questions?
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I did want to touch base on page 11, because it's something that we see people get confused on sometimes. I just want to clarify a few things. I asked here about if you're eligible for the Developmental Disabilities waiver. Okay, so that's what we talked about with the CDD eligibility, right? So if you were to determine CDD eligible, you would check yes. And then if you had this information when you're determined eligible, right? And if you have a case manager, you can provide their information there as well. Now, not everyone who's gotten eligibility may have gotten a case manager, but once you have eligibility, you're able to get one. What we mean by case manager is someone that provides case management services, someone who's on the IDD waiver. So we're not talking about like your voc rehab counselor, or if you have a counselor from another department like Johnson County Mental Health, or you might have a care coordinator from your MCO, and that's a different person too. A case manager is basically someone who helps you organize, arrange and organize your benefits, and helps you apply to programs, and helps you recommend things that recommends things to you that might help meet your goals. Over here on the right side, it says date services began. This is for the HCPS funding, right? So if you've got HCPS funding, that's where you indicate that, okay? Now, if you've never applied, you do need to be eligible with CDDO to participate. So there's that number on the flow chart you can call to start that process if you haven't. Or if you have applied but have not accepted, you can appeal that process. If you're really interested in project search and you're denied before, you'd be like, I'm not going to worry about it right now. Doesn't mean you can't go back and try that again, okay? Because you do ultimately have that eligibility to participate. I do want to go over a couple examples of people who graduated project search and got no employment afterwards, to kind of talk about some common situations we see. So this first one is Tyler. He's in our Embassy Suites program. He is someone who hadn't really done any work experiences before he started project search. He kind of came to us just to help develop those skills in the first place. He completed a year with us, and he got a job at the Embassy Suites actually on their maintenance team. So someone who hadn't worked much prior and came to us. This is Kyle. This is someone who had tried other employment programs before and hadn't found success yet. So he tried our program, and then he was able to successfully get a job at part-time hours afterwards. And then this third person, his name is Jacob. He's someone who has been working successfully already. So he's already gotten a job. He'd been working, I actually can't recall if it was full-time or not, but he'd been working successfully already. However, he wanted to try something new, see if there's other options for him out there. He wanted to do some job exploration. So he applied for our program, and he completed our program. And then he actually got a different job with the Sheriff's Department, doing fingerprinting. So I just kind of highlight those different examples. So people who don't have work experience yet, people who have tried other stuff but haven't been successful, and people who have been able to work but maybe want to try some new stuff. Now, a common thing we get asked questions about is the impact of working on benefits, because that's something, if you get SSI or SSDI, you'll want to have some understanding of when it comes to approaching work. Now, unfortunately, none of us here are benefit specialists, so we're kind of limited on how well we can answer those questions. So what I have here is some contact information for Shannon Beat. She's kind of our go-to source for sources for benefits counseling. She's someone you can reach out to. If you have questions about, hey, if I get this kind of job and make this much, how will this impact what I get? Last time, Chris, you'd sent out this information, I think, to people. So
I think we're going to try and send out the slides to everyone as well, just as a follow-up. We've had some people requesting it in chat, so we'll figure out if we can do that, or if we because like setting a whole PowerPoint is large, so we might just try to make a
Yeah.
PDF of it and
Yeah,
go
that's
from
fine.
that way. But we'll
Sure.
we'll get this information out. If you have any specific slides that you do want, just let us know, or we can send out this information as well as the last information night. They wanted the video URL that's in the chat here, but I could also send that out in an email as well. So
Yeah, I think we said that out last time too, so that works. I like that video too. And then here's Chris and I's information. So if you're applying and you had questions, or if you just have more questions that you wanted to ask us privately to decide whether you wanted to apply or not, you can contact either one of us. Whoever you feel more comfortable with, I guess. It's not a competition or anything, but yeah.
should give you the same answer. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll probably give you the same answer. Yeah, whoever you want to. And I think this is our last slide. So if there's any final questions about our program or how to apply or what it's like, I think do we have something come through in the chat there? I see something glowing here. Oh, that's just more information about that other class. Okay, cool. All right, any final questions before we end our session today? I guess one. Oh, we have Ian raising his hand. Yeah, go for it.
So since I'm currently looking for employment right now, and if you do find a job in the interim, and you also get accepted into this program, what's the process of? I mean, can you continue your current employment while you are doing these internships, or would you have to get out of your current employment to step over?
So that's a great question, Ian. So
since it's unpaid, you know.
Right. Yeah. So if people want to participate in project search, what we need from our interns is to be committed to our schedule. So we need people to be here from 8:30 to 3:15. Some people do project search and work outside of those hours, which, that's great if that's something you feel you're able to do. But what we can't do is say you have a schedule and you have to work every Thursday and you can't come to project search. That's unfortunately something that we can't allow. You have to be committed to our hours. So sometimes people will start us and they adjust their work schedule. Some people do leave their job to do project search in hopes of getting an improved job. It just kind of depends on the person's situation. I mean, I guess what you have to ask yourself, Ian, is if you get a job and it's a good fit for you, if it's something you want to stop or not. It's just a decision that.
Right. I just wanted to know what that process was. So.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. What our stance is that is you can stay, if you can be committed to our hours, you can still participate. But
in years past, it is an employment program. So we have had people exit the program a little early, like maybe end of second rotation, beginning of third rotation. If they do have a nice job that's been set up, something that they're interested in, we can go from there. But it's a case-by-case situation. And so if that's something you're interested in, you just touch base with us and we can kind of work out a plan for you.
Any other questions? I guess what I'd like to do before we finish is just thank you all for being here today and just kind of hearing what we're about and learning about our program and showing interest. We appreciate it. Love talking about project search, so happy to take opportunities to do that. Like we said, if you have any other questions about the program or questions about applying, feel free to reach out to us. Chris is going to follow up with some of the slides, and I'll probably help you put that together, Chris.
I'll probably get that to you tomorrow at some point. I'll probably send it out to the people that were on our list of RSVPs, so I'll just send them out. And in the application itself, Tina is the contact person for that, but if I think our name and number might be on there as well, or just anyone in the program can help. But questions related to applications, you will ultimately send them off to Tina, so she can help you with that as well. So just we're all here to help. And so any way we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all again. I think we're going to end things here. I think we have one. Do we have one last second thing? Oh yeah, absolutely, no problem, John. You guys all have a good night, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. No, I hate how it's hard to, oh, I have to do that. How do you get out?
And you can go ahead and stop the recording, Tina.